Good morning, Dr. Fenech. As Managing Partner of Fenech Fenech Advocates, today we'll be discussing marine litigation in Malta. In fact, Fenech Fenech Advocates is one of the only law firms in Malta with a dedicated marine litigation department. When was this set up and was there the need for it?
Yes, indeed. To this day, Fenech Fenech Advocates, I believe, is the only law firm on the island with a dedicated marine litigation department. This started off in 1993 with a little bit of history. I had come back to Malta after having spent a good 6 years away from Malta, having graduated in Malta in '85, gone away to London and New Orleans and spent 6 years doing pure marine litigation. In Malta at the time that was a little bit unheard of because most lawyers would do a bit of everything rather than be totally specialized, particularly in marine litigation. So when I came back, having only practiced in marine litigation for a number of years, I really wanted to join a firm which was ready to be adventurous enough to create a marine litigation department. And cutting a very long story short, Fenech Fenech had approached me. I said I would love to work for Fenech Fenech on one condition. I would really love to set up a marine litigation department. And they said, well, if you think you can do it, then just get on with it. And we did that. And the rest is history, because we've grown substantially to a very highly established department, which does exclusively marine litigation disputes.
Can you tell us more about the types of disputes that would get referred to your department?
It's the entire cross-section of the maritime spectrum. And this is due to a number of reasons. As you know, or as many people know, the Malta flag is the largest flag in Europe. And consequently, when you have circa 100 million tons traveling the world's oceans, on a number of occasions, they do have difficulties, they do encounter challenges, and in a number of jurisdictions, the law of the flag needs to be consulted with regard to the issues that arise. So we would get involved in that sort of activity where we would give expert opinions on what the law of Malta has to say in a litigious scenario taking place outside Malta and affecting Maltese registered vessels. Apart from that, though, Malta is bang in the middle of the Mediterranean. I always say we have no raw materials, but our greatest asset is our human resources and our geographical position. Being in the middle of the Mediterranean, equidistant from Gibraltar and Suez, means that we are bang in the middle of one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. And therefore, we do get involved in dealing with a number of casualties that arise around us, that take place around us, where they would need the closest port of call. Malta has a very sophisticated ship repair facility, and consequently, on a number of occasions, these ships that get involved in such casualties would come to Malta, marine litigation lawyers would be required, and there you are. So we would have a variety of disputes. They could be what we consider wet work and dry work. So as far as wet work is concerned, we have a regular occurrence in terms of salvage operations, pilotage, collisions, and a number of other, and towage operations, so with all the disputes and situations that those arise. But then we also get involved in contractual disputes. Again, Malta is a truly maritime centre, and therefore we have here represented on the island the whole spectrum of maritime activity. So we're talking about ship repair. We would get involved in ship repair disputes, contractual at the beginning and possibly after the repairs are effected. Malta is also a very important bunkering location, so we get involved in that. We have a transshipment centre with thousands of containers being discharged and loaded in Malta through the Malta Freeport terminals. We have yachting. We have got, I mentioned ship repair, there is a nautical school. We would get involved in a number of other areas. We have a very important towage company which performs towage services, both as far as harbour towage services and towage services which possibly affect the oil and gas industry in the region. There are other service providers who provide services to the oil and gas industry. So simply by me defining just a very few of the maritime activities that we find here, one can therefore imagine that we would get involved naturally in any dispute which would arise as a result of the conduct of these activities. Apart from that, of course, you would also get involved in typically arrests of ships and in other precautionary or security measures which our law allows. So, unfortunately, when owners default on their obligations, it could be that they default in their obligations towards their banks. It could be that they enter into disputes with service providers, with the suppliers of provisions, etc. Contractual scenarios which may lead to a claim against a vessel, a ship owner. In a number of occasions, it would be necessary for those people to protect their interests. And one of the few ways of protecting one's interests is to arrest the vessel. Again, with Malta being bang in the middle of the Mediterranean, it is therefore a very good location to arrest a ship. We would also get involved in issuing other forms of security measures. So that is something we do as well. Another area of activity which is also very, very popular is when we act for and on behalf of the financiers of ships. Shipping is more or less cyclical in the sense that there are good days and there are bad days. Of course, as a result of the recession in 2008, with financial difficulties being encountered by so many international traders, that of course hit the shipping community as well, unfortunately. And there were a number of instances when owners would default. So Maltese law protects the mortgagee substantially. Mortgagees derive an enormous amount of comfort in knowing that ships are registered under the Malta flag. So Malta offers mortgagees a very robust law which assists them to protect their interests. Vessels can come to Malta, they can be arrested in Malta, they can be sold in Malta in judicial sales, either by auction or by court-approved private sales, ensuring that the mortgagees and the creditors' interests are protected, whilst also offering a great degree of protection also to the owner. We have a very robust law, which of course assists in building our maritime practice, which is why we have a very extensive maritime practice, leading to the need to create the Marine Litigation Department.
Do you have to rely on other experts in other related fields?
Yes, that is one of our strengths. Shipping is an international area of activity, and a ship cannot be seen in isolation. Very frequently, when you have casualties, when you have collisions, when you have the occasional explosion on board vessels, vessels come with cargoes. Vessels carry a variety of cargoes. You have different types of ships, which require their own expertise, which require expertise on the carriage of that particular cargo. So very frequently, yes, we need to rely on experts who have knowledge on particular cargoes that are being carried, on naval architects, on marine engineers, and one of our strengths actually is not only the fact that we have immediate access to these experts locally, but because of our experience both in Malta and particularly overseas, we have built an enormous, shall I say, source of a variety of experts all over the world. So if a Maltese registered vessel encounters a difficulty in what could be a remote part of the world or not so remote part of the world, we can within minutes access the right assistance, the right technical assistance to come to the assistance of the vessel or the client concerned. One last thing I would like to mention with regard to experts is that Malta hosts the International Maritime Law Institute. And at the Maritime Law Institute, we have students, very frequently mature students, who come from every single corner of the world. And over the years, of course, with these very highly specialized persons having come to Malta, they go back to their country, they know more about international maritime law, but that also provides us with a fantastic direct link to people who know how we operate here, with a view to offering their services in their own jurisdiction. That is a very big advantage.